Donald Trump's victory in the United States presidential election introduced significant uncertainty to international trade, particularly with North American partners. One of his most debated promises was a proposal to impose a 25% tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico, including crude oil, which are two of the United States' primary suppliers. The plan, designed to protect domestic industries and address trade imbalances, sparked concerns about the potential economic fallout for all three countries involved. Just days into his presidency, Trump reaffirmed his intention, announcing that the tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports would take effect on February 1st, leaving less than 10 days for stakeholders to prepare for the impending changes. This announcement was one of several controversial executive orders issued during Trump's early days in office. Among them, he reinstated over 8,000 military members previously discharged for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine, with provisions for back pay. While supporters saw this as a move to rectify past wrongs, critics argued it undermined military health protocols and could set a dangerous precedent for future vaccination mandates. Trump also took aggressive steps to combat illegal immigration, drug trafficking, and human smuggling by deploying troops to the United States-Mexico border and designating Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. These decisions, while applauded by some for their tough stance, drew criticism for increasing border militarization and straining diplomatic relations with Mexico. On the environmental front, Trump withdrew the United States from the Paris Climate Accord and rolled back restrictions on fossil fuel extraction while halting new offshore wind farm projects. Environmentalists decried these measures, warning they would worsen the climate crisis and impede progress towards sustainable energy solutions. In addition, Trump issued pardons to approximately 1,500 individuals involved in the January 6 Capitol riots, a move seen by many as undermining accountability and emboldening unlawful behavior. Another executive order reversed diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives from the previous administration, a decision that critics said would erode efforts to address systemic inequalities in federal agencies. In a contentious move, Trump enforced strict binary definitions of gender across federal agencies, eliminating protections for transgender and non-binary individuals. Advocacy groups widely condemned the policy, arguing it invalidated the existence and rights of transgender people. Trump also withdrew the United States from the World Health Organization, citing dissatisfaction with its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and claims of political bias. Health experts expressed concerns that this decision would weaken global health initiatives and diminish the United States' capacity to respond to international health crises. The announcement of tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports raised alarms about potential economic consequences, particularly in the energy sector. Canada and Mexico collectively supply more than half of the United States' crude oil imports, with Canada alone delivering approximately 3.8 million barrels per day, over half of total imports. Mexico, the second largest supplier, provides billions of dollars worth of heavy crude oil annually to United States refineries, which are heavily dependent on these imports to meet domestic energy demands. The proposed tariffs threaten this critical supply chain, potentially leading to higher energy costs for American consumers and businesses while jeopardizing economic stability in Canada and Mexico. Beyond energy, the tariffs risked straining long-standing economic ties established under the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA. Both Canada and Mexico began evaluating retaliatory measures to protect their interests, underscoring the interconnectedness of North American trade and the broader risks of escalating protectionist policies. Canada considered several options in response. One involved reducing or halting oil exports to the United States, a move that could disrupt energy supplies and elevate costs for millions of American consumers, particularly in states like Michigan and Wisconsin, which are heavily reliant on Canadian energy. In Ontario, Premier Doug Ford advocated leveraging energy as a bargaining tool and even suggested halting electricity exports to the United States. Alberta, Canada's leading oil-producing province, faced a more complex situation. Premier Danielle Smith opposed cutting oil exports, warning that it would severely harm Alberta's economy, which relies heavily on oil revenue. She cautioned that such a move could destabilize Canada's energy sector, leading to job losses, reduced revenue, and potential domestic political upheaval. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau took a measured approach, emphasizing the need for balanced and deliberate responses. His government explored alternative measures, such as imposing targeted tariffs on United States goods like steel, aluminum, and orange juice. These efforts aimed to protect Canada's economy without escalating tensions unnecessarily. Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre also vowed strong retaliation against the United States, warning that the proposed tariffs would harm both nations and pledging to implement precise countermeasures. Poilievre hinted at exploring alternative trade partners to reduce Canada's reliance on the United States market. Amid growing national unity, an Ottawa entrepreneur launched a Canada is not for sale's hat campaign in response to Trump's tariff threats and remarks suggesting Canada join the United States as its 51st state. The campaign gained traction after Premier Ford wore one of the hats during a meeting with Trudeau, leading to tens of thousands of orders. This initiative symbolized Canadians' collective resolve to defend their country's economic independence. The Canadian dollar showed resilience, rising against the United States dollar as investors expressed skepticism about the tariffs' feasibility. Oil prices, a key Canadian export, also experienced slight increases amid concerns over potential supply chain disruptions. The tariff issue brought rare political unity to Canada, with provincial leaders across the political spectrum rallying behind the federal government's efforts to counter the proposed measures. Public opposition was equally strong, with protests, social media campaigns, and calls for consumer boycotts of United States goods gaining momentum. Reducing or halting oil exports to the United States would have significant economic and political consequences for both nations. For the United States, such actions could disrupt energy supply chains, increase costs for consumers, and affect industries reliant on affordable energy. States like Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, which depend heavily on Canadian crude oil and electricity, would face acute shortages and higher prices. For Canada, the economic impact would be severe, as crude oil exports are a major revenue source. A sharp reduction could slow GDP growth, increase unemployment in the energy sector, and strain provincial budgets. Fallout would be particularly destabilizing, with strained United States-Canada relations undermining the USMCA's cooperative framework. Retaliatory actions from the United States could escalate the trade dispute further, reducing the chances of a negotiated settlement. To mitigate these risks, Canada explored alternative strategies. Retaliatory tariffs on United States goods, such as bourbon and steel products, mirrored Canada's response to similar United States tariffs in 2018. Diversifying energy markets was another key focus. Projects like the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion aim to improve access to global markets, especially in Asia, reducing Canada's dependence on the United States as its primary energy customer. Additionally, Canada prioritized domestic energy security by investing in renewable energy and boosting energy efficiency. These measures not only reduced the risks of trade disputes but also aligned with Canada's long-term environmental goals. Meanwhile, Mexico also considered its own countermeasures. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum warned of reciprocal tariffs on United States goods if Trump's proposals were enacted, highlighting the potential for a tit-for-tat escalation that could harm businesses in both countries. The broader implications of Trump's tariffs underscored the delicate balance of North American trade. As tensions simmered, both Canada and Mexico sought ways to protect their economies while navigating the challenges of an increasingly protectionist United States administration. Mexico is taking proactive steps to bolster its economic resilience and counterbalance external trade pressures, such as potential tariffs proposed by the United States. To reduce its reliance on foreign imports, especially from China, and attract more foreign investment, President Sheinbaum unveiled a strategic initiative called Plan Mexico. This ambitious program focuses on replacing imports with locally manufactured goods and developing high-value sectors like automotive and aerospace industries. By doing so, Mexico aims to strengthen its economy and reduce vulnerabilities to external trade challenges. The potential United States tariffs have raised alarm within the Mexican government due to their significant economic implications. Officials warn that these tariffs could lead to an estimated loss of 400,000 American jobs and a rise in consumer prices in the United States. This concern stems from the deeply integrated supply chains between the two countries, particularly in industries like automotive manufacturing. Components often cross the United States-Mexico border multiple times during the production process, and disruptions would have cascading effects. Mexico's Economy Minister Marcelo Ebrard has expressed a commitment to finding diplomatic solutions to prevent the implementation of United States tariffs. Drawing from past trade negotiations during former President Donald Trump's first term, Ebrard emphasized cooperation and mutual understanding in tackling shared issues, such as migration and drug trafficking. He also criticized the protectionist measures, warning that they would harm both nations' economies. While dealing with the potential challenges from United States policies, Mexico continues to prioritize its economic development by focusing on reducing trade deficits with countries like China and investing in its industrial capacity. Initiatives such as Plan Mexico reflect the nation's long-term vision for economic self-reliance and growth. On the topic of energy, Canada remains the largest supplier of crude oil to the United States, providing over 50% of United States crude oil imports. By 2023, the United States was importing approximately 3.8 million barrels per day from Canada, supported by the expansion of Canadian oil sands production and cross-border infrastructure like the Keystone Pipeline system. The geographical proximity and compatibility of Canadian heavy crude oil with United States refineries, especially in the Midwest and Gulf Coast, have solidified Canada's role as a critical energy partner. The total value of Canadian crude oil exports to the United States reached $97.18 billion in 2023. Mexico is the second-largest supplier of crude oil to the United States, exporting significant volumes in 2023. However, concerns are growing over Mexico's declining production capacity and policy shifts favoring domestic consumption, which may challenge its ability to maintain consistent export levels in the future. Despite these issues, Mexico remains a reliable energy partner, contributing to the integrated energy market between the two nations. President Trump's proposed tariffs on major trading partners, including Canada, Mexico, and China, have sparked widespread concern. The interconnected nature of global trade ensures that these tariffs, while intended to protect United States industries, may trigger retaliatory measures with far-reaching consequences. For instance, Canada has hinted at cutting its oil exports to the United States, which could disrupt energy supplies in states heavily reliant on Canadian imports, such as Michigan and Wisconsin. Such measures could also drive up oil prices, placing additional financial strain on American consumers and businesses. Mexico, too, has signaled its willingness to impose reciprocal tariffs on United States goods. Targeted industries may include agriculture, where products like corn, soybeans, and meat are vital exports for American farmers. As one of the largest importers of United States agricultural goods, any restrictions from Mexico could deeply impact rural communities dependent on farming. China, another major target of the United States trade policy, has hinted at redirecting its trade focus to other markets, such as Europe, Asia, and Africa, to reduce its reliance on the United States market. The United States-China trade volume in 2023 was approximately $600 billion, with a significant trade deficit of nearly $350 billion on the United States side. Restrictions on Chinese exports, including electronics, machinery, and rare earth materials, could disrupt American industries heavily reliant on these imports. In retaliation, China might impose tariffs on United States agricultural products and high-value goods, further escalating tensions. The European Union, a critical United States trading partner with a trade volume exceeding $1.2 trillion in 2023, could also respond with retaliatory measures. In previous disputes, the EU imposed tariffs on iconic American products like bourbon and motorcycles. The EU might leverage its influence in global trade policy to rally other nations against United States actions, potentially isolating the United States economically. Additionally, the EU could target United States tech companies operating in Europe, potentially increasing taxes or imposing stricter regulations to exert economic pressure. The combined retaliatory measures from Canada, Mexico, China, and the EU would have substantial impacts on the United States economy. Key sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, and technology are especially vulnerable to global trade disruptions. Retaliatory tariffs could lead to job losses and higher consumer prices, further straining the economy. Disruptions in supply chains, particularly in industries like automotive and technology, would delay production and increase costs. Economic models predict that a widespread trade war could reduce United States GDP
as
growth,
trade tensions
undermining
escalate,
domestic stability. The potential consequences for the United States and its global partners remain significant. The rise in consumer costs, job losses, and supply chain disruptions highlight the high stakes of this policy direction. Whether these tariffs will be enacted and how trading partners will respond remains uncertain, but the global economic landscape of 2025 and beyond will undoubtedly be shaped by the outcomes of these escalating trade disputes. Thank you for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to our channel to stay updated. Your support means a lot to us. Check out another video on our channel, now displayed on the screen.